Good evening. Just a brief introduction for myself, really. So I'm Claire Merriman. I'm currently a careers consultant working at Aston University. In a previous life, which seems a long time ago now, I was a graduate recruiter, and then I made the transition from industry across into university back in 2009. I came in and I started working with the employer team, and I was doing business development. And then I moved across to the placements team and I started working alongside students, helping them find placements and work experience and supporting them when they were on placement. And then I moved across and joined the careers team in 2014, and then finally got round to completing my master's in careers management in 2020, which I thought was going to be a really good idea to start in 2020. And of course, then I ended up doing that virtually, homeschooling at the same time and trying to work. So it was a busy old year. I'm part of the central careers team at Aston University, but we are also aligned to different degree programmes and we teach on those. And the degree programmes that I'm aligned to specifically are things like pharmacy, audiology, optometry and biomedical engineering at the moment. And that's my LinkedIn profile there. So if anybody did want to link in with me afterwards, I would be very, very happy to connect with you if you have any questions and you want to come back to me in the future. Very, very happy to always answer any questions. Okay. So I thought it was worth just mentioning what careers and placement support looks like at higher education, within higher education, and certainly at Aston, because it surprises people when they come and make the transition across to university from school and college, because actually it's high on the agenda in higher education. We have targets set, it forms part of our ranking, but at Aston, as well as I'm sure many other HE organisations and institutions, it's really, really important to us that our students not only get a fantastic degree, but they also go on to become very employable and are kind of really competitive in the job market. So it's big business, and we are a big team to kind of represent that. So we're a team of about 60 people at Aston for the careers and placements team. And if you know Aston or know anything about Aston University, we're not a huge university, particularly when you look at people like the University of Birmingham. They have many more students than we do, but probably our team is a similar size, if not bigger. So that's not all careers advisors. So part of that 60 strong team, we've got operations, we've got marketing, we've got business development, we've got placement support, we've got a job shop that helps students get part-time work, but it is also part of the day-to-day careers team as well. What can you expect from us? Well, obviously we offer one-to-one information, advice and guidance appointments, and that's something you'd probably expect from us, and we offer those virtually or face-to-face at a time to suit students. And we've always offered them virtually, actually, even pre sort of COVID days. And we also have what we call our 24/7 careers advisor. So that's the web pages there. And again, that's open. You don't have to have any Aston usernames. That's it. It's pretty much an open website. So if you wanted to go and have a look at that, you're very, very welcome. So again, it's got lots of advice that you'd probably expect around CVs and applications and interviews, but some things perhaps you wouldn't necessarily expect. So we've got lots of good software which helps you kind of have a mock interview, a video mock interview. You can make the questions appear if you upload the job description. There's lots of help and support around psychometric testing, personality testing, numerical stuff. If you want to go and gain a placement overseas, we've got some really nice software that allows students to download country guides. If you know that you want to go and do a placement in New York, you could type that in and it would give you bespoke advice around that country as well. So lots of things that are really interesting, and lots of blogs, lots of podcasts from our students, employers, staff. So lots of information around exploring careers. And we offer skills workshops throughout the entire year, and they're both on campus and online. So students can choose which one they want to come to. And again, that's quite skills based. So it might be around CV, putting together a good CV, or how to ace your interview. But it might be things around, how to disclose a disability to an employer. So if a student had dyslexia or was autistic, they might need some support in terms of how to tell an employer that, how to articulate that to an employer. And lots of employer events as well, from fairs, great big careers fairs. We've got a couple coming up this month, the World of Work. So we've got an engineering and technology one happening on Wednesday. We have lots of employers popping in to do guest lectures, insight conversations. So we might have a barrister one week, or we might have somebody in PR the following week, just coming on and saying, this is what I do, this is what you have to do, this is the qualifications required, this is the work experience required, this is what the day-to-day my job looks like, just so that students can dip in and dip out of whatever they want in order to make some really nice career choices. And I think the thing that surprises most people is that careers is in the curriculum, certainly at Aston. So I teach within the programmes that I said earlier. So I have a sort of careers education package that I teach from the first year all the way through to final year and beyond. And actually, Aston students can also access the careers team for 3 years after they've graduated. And we have dedicated teams to support students when they're searching for their placement. So if you're studying, I'm trying to think of something that isn't my programme. If you're studying sociology, we would have a dedicated team there, or certainly a placement coordinator who would understand what that looks like, understand what the options are for those students, what they can't do on placement, and then support them while they are on placement, because students on placement are still students. They are still Aston students, and they are still doing some academic work as well. But it's really flexible, and I'll tell you a little bit about that later. And we also have a job site, as most universities do, just for our students, so students can go on and filter from part-time jobs and volunteering jobs and placements abroad and graduate jobs and all the various different opportunities that are there for them, all in one place. The question I get asked a lot at open days is it worth getting a degree still? And it's fair to say that university isn't right for everybody, but it's right for a lot of people. And there's a good reason, there's a few good reasons to go to university still, and it's certainly worth considering. Currently, there are more graduate jobs than students graduating. So from a supply and demand point of view, it's a very buoyant market. We didn't actually struggle too much with COVID. Placements took a real hit. It was a really tricky time throughout COVID trying to find placements, and a lot of companies kind of stopped offering placements, that's for sure. But graduate recruitment actually survived quite well. And I think I've got some stats later on that will show you that. There's still lots of professions, there's still lots of jobs that require a degree. Obviously, we know some of them, doctors, law, teaching, but there's quite a lot of professions and jobs that require a degree that you wouldn't necessarily think of. And even if it's not at an entry level, it may be that if you want to go on and progress within the company and get promotions, that those positions then require a degree. So it's always worth having a look at options and what they look like. And graduates still earn more than non-graduates on average. And I think it's also, you know, the thing that students will tell us is that university is more than the degree. You know, it broadens horizons, it gives you that fantastic few years of experience that you're never going to be able to get back again. It's a fantastic way of networking. I was talking about all the employer stuff that we do, but also it's an opportunity to forge friendships. There's lots of international students, you know, not alone meeting students from different parts of the UK, but also across the world now. And that's a really nice way to also be challenged about your own values, learn about new things that you wouldn't do if you stayed within your own tribe, so to speak. So lots of different reasons out there for going to university and getting a degree. As I say, it's quite a buoyant market. It's looking good. We weren't too hit anyway, but the number of graduates recruited in 2021 was higher than expected. The number of graduate jobs on offer in 2022, we saw the largest annual rise in graduate recruitment for more than 15 years, which is amazing. We also, the number of graduate vacancies now is kind of 11% higher than we were pre-COVID. So that's really good. And here you've got this nice little graph on the side, so you can see 2007 we were sort of 10%, 10.1, and then going across to 2022 we're back up here. So we had a bit of a dip at COVID, but actually it wasn't anything that was too major, and we have certainly recovered from that. And graduate salaries in the UK from the leading graduate employers, so those are your kind of top times 100, so Rolls-Royce, Audi, L'Oreal, PwC, some of those leading graduate employers, they in kind of 2022, we can see that the sort of average starting salary with those on those graduate programs is about 32,000. So it's not a bad starting salary, with some paying quite a lot more. And I mentioned Audi then. Audi are one of the biggest graduate program salaries that you can start earning from, so which is often quite surprising. But really it's the investment banks, the laws, the consulting firms, they're the big players. If you're in it for the money, those are the people to go for. So all of this is taken from a report that comes out, which is called the High Flyers report. You can download that as well if you're interested. These are just the highlights really picked out from that, but if you want to, again, it's an open report, you can go and pick up. So the current graduate labour market, we are now, as I say, in a point where we have more demand for graduates than ever before, but it is really competitive, and certainly so in some sectors, and certainly more so in other sectors. The recruitment process is pretty intense, and that often comes as a bit of a shock for students, because it's not only when you graduate for your graduate job, it's often for the placement as well. So that means students only in their second year are going through this selection process. So what does it look like? It can be assessment centres where they get together large groups of students. Quite often now they'll do that online. That'll be an interview, there'll be psychometric tests, they might ask you to fill out an application form, submit a CV and cover letter. There might be online interviews, there might be automated video interviews where you get sent a link and you have to press go, answer into the camera, close that down, then send it back to the recruiter. That might be part of the process as well. It could be case studies. They could ask you to do group presentations within the assessment centres, and 1 or 2 interviews. So it's often quite a few hoops to jump through to secure these graduate roles. And we want to make sure that when you're at university, this is one thing we do with our students, to make sure that people are practiced, which is why we've got all the fantastic software and all the skill sessions and all the employer skill sessions, to make sure that students have the chance to practice and practice and practice, to know how to get through these processes, which is why the placement is such a good idea as well, because you've already done it for your placement year. So when you come to do it for your graduate job, you know where you're at. Okay. What employers are looking for. So this, it goes back to kind of, what are employers looking for? And unfortunately, it's not just a good degree anymore. The employers that we're talking to at Aston University, when they're recruiting for graduates, they're not just saying, okay, have you got a good degree? Excellent. Did you perform well academically? That's fantastic. They're now looking for a complete mix of academic achievement, skills, passion, interest, potential. They want a lot for their money. And the skills that they're looking for are those employability skills. So if you look at any job description, it'll be littered with those employability skills, soft skills, transferable skills, call them what you like. They're the same skills that we need students to start building. And I'll talk to you later about how you can start building those skills now. But things like team working, problem solving, resilience, bouncing back when things have gone wrong, dealing with conflict, managing your time effectively, being flexible, being adaptable in the workplace, maybe showing leadership skills, communication skills, both verbally, email as well, digital skills. These are all skills that employers are looking for, and they will ask for evidence of them. So they won't just say, are you a good team player? Yes, excellent, you've got the job. They'll say things like, can you tell me about a time when you worked as part of a team? What was the goal of the team? What was your role within the team, and how did that work out? So they'll want you to provide experience and examples of how you've worked as part of a team. And the stat in the box there is often one that surprises people as well. 82% of UK employers, and we're talking the larger employers here, pay little or no attention to what a student has studied. So that doesn't mean that your degree isn't of use. It most definitely is. But they want you to, if they're on the graduate scheme, they want a graduate, but they're actually not too worried about what a student has studied. So there's some caveats to that. Obviously, if you're going to go and study and be a doctor, then you need to have a degree in medicine. If you're going to go and do something in chemical engineering, then you probably have to have a degree in chemical engineering. If you're going to go and be a teacher, then obviously you need to have your teaching qualifications. But for things like marketing, if we look at a company like L'Oreal, and they're looking at their marketing graduate program, would you need to be a marketing graduate? No, not at all. You could have studied fine art or engineering or business or sociology. What you'll need to do is to kind of boost that, scaffold that with some really good experience that showcases your creativity, perhaps your writing skills, your team working, and just showing them that you have potential to do well within their organisation. So Mars, I thought, was an interesting one. So Mars said to us, Mars are open to most degree backgrounds, but are particularly looking for someone with the enthusiasm to embrace a number of different roles in the company across 3 years. So this is their rotational graduate programme. And also someone who has the flexibility to travel. The scheme is procurement and supply chain, but we're looking for people who are engaging communicators. Personality is more important than technical skills. We can train for those. Therefore, the degree subject is not the leading factor. So they're not looking for somebody that's done supply chain management. They're not looking for somebody that's possibly, had modules in their HR degree around procurement or whatever it may be. They're looking for any degree. They're looking for most degrees, and they're just looking for somebody who has the right values, who has the right cultural fit, who has the right interest, and who's really keen to get involved with their business. HSBC is another one. They told us in a recent webinar, it's not what you've studied, but what you bring. Again, open to any degree discipline, but they want somebody who can demonstrate that they're curious, that they're a problem solver, that they can show resilience, they have an open mind, they're creative. You can read the rest. You get the idea. And again, how do they tell that? How will they find that out about you? Well, they'll ask you either in an application or an online video interview or a real interview face-to-face or a live interview. They might say, tell us about a time when, give me an example of a time when something went wrong. What did you do about that? How did you get over that? So actually, these are the reasons why doing a little bit more and getting involved at university is really, really important, because you can't always get all of these things within a classroom environment. So thinking about the skills that you need, thinking about all the jobs that are out there, how do we go about choosing the right career? Well, there's a nice little career development model that if you're involved in careers, you'll be very familiar with. We call this the DOTS model, and most careers advisors will say this is something they sort of rely on. And it's the idea is, you find out about yourself, you understand your own skills, you know what's important to you. You know what your own values are, you know a little bit about yourself, so you know you want to work as part of a team, you're interested in finance, you want to stay in Birmingham, so you think, right, okay, so I'll find the opportunities that match that. So you research and you find 20 opportunities that match that, and then you make your decision, okay, I'm going to choose 5 of those to apply for, and then you put together your CV and your application and your interview and you get offered the job. Pretty simple, isn't it? Well, of course, we know it's not that simple. And actually, this is much more likely to be what does happen, because if you'd asked me when I graduated in the dark ages with my psychology degree if I was going to be a careers advisor, I wouldn't have known that. And actually, most of us kind of map out our careers and we try things out and we change. And because life happens, and even with that really clear plan, sometimes things don't always go to plan, do they? So it's important to kind of maybe think about those things, maybe be aware of our own interests, our own skills, our own limitations, barriers, opportunities that are out there. Of course, then it can help us make those decisions. And of course, we then need to have a really nice CV and be able to do all the interview skills. But alongside that, we also need to be flexible. We also need to kind of take a few risks. Maybe be really proactive, because that opportunity is not going to necessarily land in our lap So maybe we need to do a little bit more. Maybe we need to be a bit more curious to find out what's out there. We used to have the careers ladder. So you'd enter into a career and we'd have promotions and people had jobs for life. Well, that's not really how the world is working at the moment. And it's far more likely people will have sort of portfolio careers, and they may have different careers at one time, or they may switch throughout different industries and locations and careers. And actually that's quite normal now, and that's quite accepted. IBM will tell their graduates as soon as they come onto the programme, they go through all of those hoops, the assessment centre, the interview, the CV, application, all those things, and they get the job at IBM. And the first thing IBM say to them is, don't get comfortable, because the job that you're going to be doing in 3 years isn't the job you're going to be doing now. And actually the job that you're going to do in 5 years probably doesn't even exist right about now. So entering the job market at the moment, students have to be really flexible, really agile, and really used to change, because the world is changing quite quickly. We see that in, really staid industries like law. Law is being completely changed at the moment. Lots of different industry sectors are really changing. So it's really important that students have that ability to move and be flexible and look at opportunities and be curious and, get themselves out of their comfort zone. It's a really interesting book, that one, actually, if you want to go and have a little look at it. Here's Harry Potter and his sorting hat. So I'm sure most of you are familiar with this. So this is where Harry puts on his hat and the hat sorts him out into which house he's going to be, and he's in Gryffindor, isn't he? And I think sometimes life would be so much simpler if this was how careers worked, and we could just put on a sorting hat and it would tell us that we were going to be into intellectual property, or we were going to work in electronic engineering, or we were going to be a script writer, or whatever it might be. But unfortunately life isn't like that, and choosing a career certainly isn't like that. And there isn't also a magic spreadsheet. I think people want to be able to type in some bits of information about themselves and it will automatically tell you what you should be doing with the rest of your life. And of course that isn't the way choosing a career works. And in fact, quite often what we hear is, what I really want to do is, but I think what I'll do is, and actually don't let your aspirations be different to your expectations, particularly at this stage in your career. Keep that door wide open. You may change, but you could have a goal and it might take you a few steps to get there, and that's absolutely fine. So always be mindful, what do I aspire to? What do I really want to do? And also the other thing to say is, if we don't know it exists, then how can we work towards it? If you ask primary school children, what do you want to be when they grow up? They'll say teacher, doctor, lawyer, maybe something random that their parents are doing, but it's because it's known to them. There are millions of careers that we can choose from. Nobody will be able to know every single career that's out there, but it's important for us and for you to start exploring that as soon as you can, just to sort of try and find out as much as you possibly can so you can make those informed choices. With that in mind, I thought it'd be nice if we could maybe start thinking about some options, maybe start thinking about some career choices, and maybe start making some decisions. So without further ado, I can't see the chat right now, so I'm going to let you pop this into the chat, or just have a think about it if you want to. So my first question to you is a really difficult one, this one. What would you prefer? If I gave you the choice now, would you have a nice cup of tea with biscuits, or would you have a hot chocolate with a couple of nice pieces of chocolate? So A or B.
Students and parents, please do put that in the chat for us. That would be brilliant. It's really good to have some participation so Claire can work with us. Thank you. That's grand. Lots of B's coming up. Actually, all B's so far.
Oh really? That's weird.
Yeah.
I'd be an A right about now, but then I have
That's grand. Super.
Okay.
Anyone else? We've got lots of B's, all B's tonight.
Oh really? Oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting. Well, there you go. If you put on this in the school, you'll know what to put on the trolley.
Oh, we've got 1A. We've got 1A. Controversial, Jack. Brilliant.
Okay, so I can't see, Louise, so I really thank you for shouting these out. So I'm going to ask you the next one, slightly more difficult now. Is it going to be Fanta or Coke?
Hey everyone, let's see what comes out. Getting more B's at the moment than A's, so if anyone's an A, come on. Oh, an A. Mostly B's. Yep,
Okay.
we've stopped at the moment, but mostly B's.
Okay, how about this one? Galaxy or Dairy Milk?
More B's, one A. Oh, another A. Still more B's. Anyway, any A's to come?
B's very popular tonight, isn't it?
It is. No, I think we've stopped. Mostly B's, couple of A's.
Okay, good to know. So Friday night, is it pajamas on the sofa, nice film to watch, or going out and partying? I'm definitely an A.
Couple of B's, couple of A's. More B's.
Excellent.
That's sort of split.
Okay, okay, controversial. Okay, so the next one, are you in it for the money or do you want to just love your job?
We've got somebody who put 4 B's. Oh, we're getting some A's as well. Some A's as well.
Excellent. Okie dokie.
Yeah. A few more A's in the end than B's, but actually a bit of both.
Bit of both. Good stuff, good stuff. Okay, so how about working in research or a laboratory environment or a science environment or working in the corporate world? What do we reckon, A or B?
Again, a bit mixed, but with kind of more B's. Yeah, more B's.
More B's, more in the corporate world. Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. So whereabouts in the country? Do we want to be in the Midlands? Do we want to stay where we are, or maybe be further afield? And that obviously is showcasing London there, in London region. But where are we? Let's say A, stay at home, stay around the Birmingham area, or B, further afield.
Again, more B's away from home.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah.
Good stuff. So, of course, these are all considerations when you're thinking about where, because if you want to work within the scientific sector, if you want to be a biomedical scientist, then we know that there's not actually, or psychology, there's not a huge amount of roles within the Midlands. So you would need to be quite flexible. We have to tell our audiology students, you're not necessarily going to get a job in Birmingham. So it is a consideration to think about when you are thinking of career choices, for sure. What about this one? Tricky. So how do we make the decisions that we've made just? How did we know that we wanted hot chocolate rather than a cup of tea? Presumably everybody has had a cup of tea and everybody has had a hot chocolate, and it's a really easy one to make, or between Fanta and Coke, because you probably tried both. And it's much easier, isn't it, to make a decision when you've tried both and then you know what you like. And I think that's the kind of point, that's the point I was trying to make, really. It's much easier to make a decision when you've got experience behind you. And that's the real key to making a decision, because there isn't a sorting hat. There isn't a magic spreadsheet. There is just research and experience, and that's what's going to help you. So when we're thinking about researching careers, how can we do that? How can we research? Well, there's some great links there that I've put there for you, some really good websites. I Could is a lovely website. Louise, you may well have pointed students there already. Prospects has got some really nice career stories on there. There's UCAS, there's Find Careers, there's the National Careers Service, Explore Careers. There's many, many more. I just didn't think it was worth putting them all on the slide, but there's some really nice career stories on YouTube. So if you think that you might be interested in being a forensic scientist, you can go and have a look. and Google your way to understanding what that looks like. And also there's some really nice insight days that are put on for students of your age group as well. So lots of companies are trying to get you in early. They want to tell you all about their company. And there's lots of insight days that are offered. So you can find those as well. What do insight days look like? Well, it's just a day or a couple of days working and getting shown around a company, and finding out a little bit more about what life looks like within that organisation or within that job role. Work experience, shadowing, volunteering, those are all things that you can do as well. It doesn't have to be structured. It doesn't have to be anything that's advertised. It might just be your friend's mum or your friend's mum's neighbour or your dad's cousin, whatever it may be. They might be doing a job that you think could sound interesting. So you could say, would you mind if I just shadowed you? You know, and we have lots of, I mentioned I'm linked to pharmacy, and lots of students who come study pharmacy say, well, I just went and did a day's work experience within a local pharmacy to see if it was something I was going to enjoy studying. And that's something really valuable, actually. Have a little look. You're never going to miss out on that opportunity. You know, you're only going to gain from those sorts of things. And volunteering is a lovely way of being able to get involved as well within your age group, and gaining some of those skills, as well as finding out if you do like working as a team, if you do like organising things, where your strengths lie. It's a really nice way of gaining experience, but also gaining an insight into some careers as well. So the one right at the bottom there is the NHS Find Your Career, and that is a bit of a quiz, actually, and it's a really nice, quite a simple, accessible website. There's over 350 careers in the NHS. People think doctors, nurses, but there's so many different things. There's medical photography is one of them that always surprises people. So you can pop in there, answer a few questions, and it will produce some ideas just about careers within in the NHS. But there's lots of other ways you can go exploring. Speak to people. Speak to your careers advisors at school and colleges. Speak to your parents, your friends, parents, neighbours, family, friends, teachers. You might be surprised, actually, when you start to think about how well you are connected, and how many people you can speak to. And LinkedIn, I put my LinkedIn address there. I wouldn't necessarily think you've probably all got LinkedIn profiles just yet. I would encourage you to get them. But LinkedIn is also a really nice way of being able to find out about careers and following people and looking at different industry updates. So that's a really nice way that we talk to our students about getting connected as well. And actually, what a lot of our students will use LinkedIn because they'll find alumni that were on their course, and they'll see what they're doing and who they're working for now, and quite often link in and say, hey, that looks really interesting. Can I talk to you about a career in whatever sector that they're working in? So chatting to people is a really nice way of finding out a little bit more about careers and opportunities. Also, lots of careers fairs, and some of these are now virtual, so a lot easier to attend than they used to be. I wanted to have a quick look at what was around, and I was reminded when I did a bit of a Google search in preparation of this that actually the Big Bang is back this year. So if you haven't heard of the Big Bang already, it's a sort of STEM event, and it's fantastic. I've been there various times over the last sort of 5, 6, 7 years, maybe. Aston University used to sponsor part of it. We probably still do. It's over at the NEC, so it's local, but it's back, and it's back in June. It's free, which is even nicer as well, and it's Wednesday to Friday, and I think there's Saturday dates there as well if you go and check out the website. But have a look at that, because that's a really nice thing to do. So if you are involved if you're thinking about science or healthcare or anything like that, the Big Bang, or engineering, the Big Bang Fair is one to go and explore. And there's lots of different things like that. And actually, I found the Big Bang on that link there, which is the youthemployment.org.uk link, and there's a whole list of UK careers fairs that are coming up. So obviously this one's nice and local to us, and they won't all be, but as I say, some of them are virtual as well, so it's worth having a look and just wandering around and seeing what's there. Sometimes when we're thinking about what we want to do, it's just the most simplest thing to think about is what do you enjoy doing? What have you done that you've enjoyed? What energizes you? And when I mean about what energizes you, I always give this example to students. I really like my job. I'm really pleased I've finally found, this career, and I've done lots of jobs that I've enjoyed over the years, but this one, I particularly enjoy. One thing I really don't enjoy is data. And once a year, I have to do something that's approaching rapidly, actually, and it's called the Hotspot Data Report. And what that means is I have to look at the programs I'm aligned to, and I have to do lots of number crunching, and I have to produce lots of different reports and have to go and present these to the exec at the university and say, this is what our student demographic looks like, this is what our graduate outcomes look like. Really boring. It's spreadsheet work, it's data. Can I do it? Yeah, I can do it. Is it a skill? Yeah, it uses IT skills, it uses Excel skills, it uses data skills, analytical skills. So I could say to an employer, I've got those skills, and I could probably go and do something within data. Would I want to? No. Absolutely not. It's the thing on my to-do list that falls off every single day because I always find something I enjoy doing more. It's the thing that I'll do and I will feel thoroughly drained. So it's certainly not something that energizes me. It's certainly not something I would want to do. But there's people that love spreadsheets. You might be one of them. I had a colleague who was also a friend. It was one of her favourite things to do. She absolutely loved kind of messing around with spreadsheets, making it look pretty, getting some data, making it work for her. So if that's something that energized her, then that's a really good use of her time. So she was the sort of data queen within our team. So think about that. Think about what energizes you, what you enjoy, what you don't enjoy. And that's often a really nice starting point. Are you somebody that enjoys writing? Are you somebody that enjoys debating, presenting, working as a team, solving problems? Are you somebody that likes IT or art, or you're creative or you're sporty? And that's actually a really nice way of thinking about your career. What comes naturally to you? Are you a leader? If you're put into a team, do you think you'll naturally be somebody who will lead? Are you an organizer? Are you the person in your friendship group that always says, right, this is what we're going to do at the weekend? Okay, well, we'll just get the train because I'll look at the train times because that's easier for everybody. Are you a diplomat? Are you the person that calms the situation down, makes everybody feel nice about themselves? Are you, the caring personality? Are you a decision maker? Are you able to kind of make good decisions quickly? Are you an entrepreneur? Have you set up your own business already? Have you thought about that? Does that excite you? Do you enjoy watching The Apprentice and those sorts of programs? So anything like that can kind of start to think about your natural way of doing things. And if you can do something which you're good at and you enjoy, well, that's pretty much, that's game over, and that's what we really want to achieve. Because if you can do that in your career, then every day going to work is going to be enjoyable, and you can't say better than that, really. So thinking about those skills that we were talking about earlier, those employability skills that we know employers are looking for, those soft skills, those transferable skills. I keep talking about them throughout this whole presentation. Problem solving, communication skills, digital skills, resilience, team working, all those things. If I sat with any of you now, any of the students on the call, and I said to you, right, let's have a one-to-one careers appointment, I'm sure that we could find ways where you've developed those skills at school, at college, in extracurricular stuff that you've been involved with family. And that's really important. So it's really important to start thinking and acknowledging that you do have those skills. Equally, think about them as tools in a tool bag, and you need to keep topping up the bag. So if I were to go and now talk about in a job interview about a Duke of Edinburgh award that I did at school, I'd look a bit silly because they'd think, what the heck have you been doing for the last few years, many years? So for you, that's where you are in your career journey at the moment, and that's brilliant. But you do need to carry on building skills. But at the moment, think about things that you can do. You might well have done the DV already. You might be thinking about part-time work. You might have done some part-time work. You might have volunteered, which is fantastic. You might have done prefect stuff. You might be writing your own blog. You might be involved in sports clubs and societies. I've got spring pod on there. If you haven't heard of Springpod, that's a really nice website that offers sort of work experience. They do some virtual work experience on there as well. As I say, lots of companies will offer insight days. They may be advertised as well. There was a School for Success website that used to advertise insight days for 16 to 18-year-olds as well. Mentoring, you may well have this within your school or college. And that's a really nice thing to get involved with. So all of these types of things and more are all great ways that students can start building upon skills and start developing those skills. And then when people get to university, when students arrive, particularly at Aston, we really talk to them about in their first year, this is the year that you'll have most time to start developing your skills. So get involved, get stuck in. It's great for your CV, it's great for making friends, it's great for making sure that you get the best out of your university experience. And we give students lots of opportunities to get involved. We've got a job shop where they can do part-time work, they can be student ambassadors, so we give them hoodies and we pay them to be around at open days and do some videos for us, or blogs or podcasts. Lots of volunteering in the community, lots of ways to kind of be a good citizen within Birmingham and surrounding areas. We have various mentoring schemes, so you could be mentoring peers or younger children, or you could have a professional mentor that we can match you with if you wanted to. Clubs and societies, more than I could possibly think to mention. Hundreds of different clubs and societies, lots of different routes of enterprise. So lots of ways students can set up their own business, but also just get involved really in enterprising activities. So that could be kind of a social media takeover, or it could be a charity event, or it could just be getting involved with an enterprise society and having lots of speakers and understanding a little bit about elements of starting up your own business. One of the things that we offer at Aston, and most universities will offer, is a placement year. So what does the placement year look like? You may already, if I was in front of you now, I'd say who's already thought about the placement year, and more often than not, students will have already heard about it. So the placement year is a year of work or study, and it's between the second year and your final year. So you come to university, you do your first year, and then you look for your placement in your second year, and then between your second year and your final year, you can go out into industry, or you can study abroad. And I thought it was worth just showing you a little bit about how flexible. I mentioned earlier about all the flexibility that offered at Aston. So students can do lots of different things. It's a whole year. And students, as I say, can study, they can set up a business, they can work. Most students will do a year in industry in one work placement. So they will find a placement year at an organisation, and they will do a job for a year. But you can also split that year. So you could do half a year studying abroad, and then you might be able to do half a year doing something else. You might want to do, if you were doing psychology, you might want to do half a year in clinical role, you might want to do half a year in a business role. And there's lots of courses, volunteering, entry-level jobs. If you're already working in a position and you don't want to give it your job for a placement year, you might be able to upskill and be a team leader or something for a year, and students can do that as well. So there's lots of different ways that we offer placement experiences for students. Okay, I'm hoping I'm going to be able to stop sharing my screen for a minute and then share another screen to show the story. Or let's see if this just plays out. If this plays, Louise, I'm going to hopefully ask you to help me out here. If this works, brilliant. If it doesn't, let me know.
No problem.
Okay, can you still see my screen?
I can see placement stories with Jim Shark.
Yes, here we go.
Don't think that's working, I'm afraid, Claire.
Sorry, is that not working?
No, I don't think it is, Claire. Is it a video?
It is a video, sorry. Yeah, let me, so you could just see the slideshow, could you? With, okay, let me, no problem. Let me see if I can share my window and it will show me. Okay, so let's see if this works. Can you see this one?
Yes.
It should be linked in now. It should be a video. Is that working?
It is. I'll see if we can hear anything. We can't hear anything.
Let me. It's all going terribly well, isn't it? So let me try that one more time. If it doesn't work.
No problem.
Okay.
Otherwise, we can send it round.
Yeah, I think this should work now.
Point of view, so there's a bunch of.
Okay, let's go back to the beginning.
I went to Aston in my second year, Gymshark blew up. Fast forward to today, and now our relationship is more from a talent point of view. So there's a bunch of placement people that are working at Gymshark, and then a bunch of people as well that went to Aston but now work here full time.
First, I'd say that I do not feel like a placement student at all. I was completely welcomed in, and as well thrown in the deep end. I was straight in there, expected to get the same numbers as everybody else, really produce the same results, which was daunting, but at the same time great, and it makes you learn so much more. We have events throughout the year, either pop-up stores or PR events, whatever that is. And so each person in my team was given an event. I was able to kind of organise my own event and just literally have free reins of that. So we did like a workout event in Birmingham, which was great, keep it local. But then I've also had like crazy opportunities, like a PR event in LA. They just don't mind, I'm a placement student. And then yeah, just say the kind of freedom that you're given. It's great. Yeah.
Generation that's younger will act in slightly different ways, whether it's their taste, whether it's the way they use social media or the platforms that they use. So we end up learning a lot from placement students, and the thing that I really admire is generally they're very ambitious and they have no fear, which is something that's really important to us here at Gymshark.
Okay, so I don't know if you I guess most of you probably do know Gymshark, particularly the students. But yeah, Gymshark was set up by Ben. Ben was an Aston student, so he's really good at giving back. Hopefully you can see my screen again now, can you, with the PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Excellent. So yeah, Gymshark, yeah, it's just absolutely huge now. And so he does quite a lot of placements, but I quite like that video because it gives you a real insight into what a placement is. So that isn't work shadowing. It's not a day's work experience. It is actually working for a company. And that's kind of what a lot of our students, the type of experience that they'll have within their placement. So I've got a few other little placement stories just with some photos. So one thing we do is when students go out on placement, we keep them engaged. We have lots of newsletters. They are still doing an academic piece of work, but we have a photo and video competition. So these are just some of the entrants in the photo competition that I thought was worth sharing with you. That would be a nice insight into kind of what students at Aston go on to do within their placement year. So this is Megan. She was doing she's doing business and management, and she, for her placement year, was a recruitment officer for a charity called Hearing Dogs for Deaf People. This is lovely Renato. He worked with us in careers and placements. So he was doing accounting and finance. He's now a final year student. He's still working for us part-time actually, but he came on board as a placement assistant and worked within our department, which wasn't his first choice, but he actually ended up having a really lovely year, and he's and it's been really nice to see all the sorts of things he's got involved in over the year. This is Amit. He chose to go on a study abroad, so he went and studied at a partner university over in Italy for the year, and that's an exchange programme where they get credits for their degree, so you can also do that. And as I say, you don't have to do it the whole year, you can do it for half the year. This is Amy on placement at ASM Systems as a design engineer. Usman, who is a mechanical engineer at a company called EMR. This is Yasmin, and she was working in our student union department. I think she's now back in her final year as well. So she was the student union coordinator. It was a paid placement for a year. This is Aston. He did he did computing science. He did a study placement in Korea, of all places. Salman was doing marketing, and he worked in a marketing communications role for Crossrail in London. Rachel, she was doing politics and economics and did her placement as a political affairs intern at Airbus. So you wouldn't necessarily think of a politics student working at Airbus, but that's a placement that comes through every single year, and it's within their, well, as it says there, it's for a political affairs intern, and she got to do some really, really interesting stuff on her placement. Talal, he was doing politics and international relations, so he did a split placement. So half of his year was spent at as an intern at the Embassy of Bahrain in Brussels, and half the year was a study placement in Singapore. And Deepa was doing law, so half of her placement, the first half, was at a Citizens Advice Bureau in Ilford, and the second part she chose to do a study placement in Brazil. No prizes for guessing where the photo came from. It wasn't Ilford. So yeah, some nice stories there. Lots of reasons to do a placement, lots of reasons to gain experience. You know, that gaining those real life examples to showcase. Remember, I talked about in an interview, tell us about a time when, if you've got some of those fantastic experiences to draw from, you really are going to stand out from the crowd and have something fantastic to talk about. You gain an insight into an industry sector and organisation. Lots of students go on placement and say, I would never have thought of doing operations. That was really boring. I thought I was going to enjoy marketing or whatever it was. And actually it's understanding there are different roles within a company. So I had a student this week who came to see me for an appointment, and as part of her placement, I can't remember what she'd gone to do, might have been supply chain, but she got involved with doing corporate social responsibility. So that's when the big companies will put time and money into kind of giving back to charities, and you know, might be a sustainability project or something like that. So she got really into corporate social responsibility, had no idea it even existed, and that's what she's now looking for her graduate role. It's often really flexible, so you can fit it around other commitments. It's often paid, particularly some of the summer placements and longer placements, and part-time work is obviously paid. But sort of gaining work experience as well, it really widens your network. You're going to speak to people that you wouldn't necessarily speak to. You're going to speak to people at different jobs, different age groups, and it's work experience that you can put on your CV as well that really will make you stand out from the pack. If you wanted to go and have a look at some of the student blogs, they're really interesting, and it will give you a real insight into some of the placement stories or some other advice from first year students. There's lots of those on the website as well. So that, again, is an open web link there that you are very, very welcome to go and check out in your own time. So just to summarise, you know, start exploring. Just start chatting to people, maybe look at some of those links, think about your own skills, think about what you enjoy, think about what you don't enjoy. Your academic grades are important. You know, employers will be looking at your academic grades, but it is equally important to go outside and do something else as well as that. Also, you know, it's just enjoyable. It's a way of making friends. It's a way of getting out there. It's a way of doing extra, you know, activities. Make things happen. It's all about that. If you go back to that nice simplistic dots model, career doesn't always work like that. Career planning doesn't always work like that. Quite often, people who are successful are people that have been out there and done stuff and been curious and put themselves out and taken those risks. And only you can do that. So make sure, you know, you do one thing to start making things happen. So that's about it for me. I will now stop sharing my screen, and I will be very happy to take any questions that anybody has.
Claire, thank you so much. That's been so comprehensive and so thought-provoking. I'm hoping that all the students and parents online will have questions, and even if you don't want to put them in the chat now, we can ask them to Claire later on. But please do put any questions in the chat. Faye's been putting some useful links, some of those that you've spoken about and some of the ones that we advertise. And I would just encourage parents as well. We will be sending you a link and instructions on how to join Unifrog, one of the platforms that we recommend for use for careers research, along with so many others with UCAS and Prospect and many of those that you mentioned, Claire. So I would encourage parents to look at those sign-on details. Later on in the week, we'll be sending those out to parents. So the website that we have at King Ed's also has lots of information for students and parents about the benefits of work experience, how to start careers research. But I think, Claire, what some of the things, whilst we're waiting for any questions in the chat, some of the things that you drew attention to about building skills now that will stand students in good stead for later on. And I really would encourage students to think about, if they're looking at a higher education, those years which give you opportunities, you know, abroad or in this country with placements, etc. Because I think, as you highlighted, Claire, those are invaluable for when later on looking at skills that can be put on CVs and used in LinkedIn to attract employers, as well as, obviously, as you said, just adding to your portfolio of enjoyment in life and engaging.
Absolutely. And actually, when we speak to students at the end, when they've graduated, the graduation ceremonies, which are fabulous and a lovely thing to be a part of, and I'll often say to students, what was your favourite bit? And time again they'll say, do you know what, the placement year is my favourite bit.
Yeah.
And you know why? It's because actually probably and actually quite often that's students who have come to me in the first couple of weeks and gone, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing, because it's quite scary. You know, going into a boardroom meeting when you haven't ever done that before, and that actually at the end of that year they'll say, oh, actually I led on that meeting, you know, I led that meeting, I stand up now in front of people and talk. I could never have done that before. And then of course those students, when they come to apply for their graduate jobs, they're already ahead of the game because they're already there. So it is the students who've had experience.
And I think it's building confidence, and I guess a lot of students might be on this thinking, well, I wouldn't have the confidence to do that, but actually they're supported as well.
Oh,
so you know, and I think both by Aston University and all the other universities there is, you know, a proper programme for this. I'm just getting a question in the chat, so I'm just going to read that. Thank you, Alicia. It's a question, Claire, saying, what's your opinion on gap years, or how could someone make them productive? If a student wanted to resit or a GCSE or do an A-level and they didn't have the chance to do this year, then to go into careers they really want, it just would be nice to know how a gap year might be able to support students and how that would be viewed as well.
Well, yeah, I think I can only talk about it from a university perspective, and you know, we encourage gap years in terms of it's not right for everybody, and not everybody wants to do it because it is prolonging education. You know, you're putting off something for another year. But from personally, I did a gap year. I gained a lot from my gap year. I really enjoyed that, and I think again, once you get into the world of work, it's quite hard to take a year off to do those sorts of things. You can gain a lot of skills from it, particularly if you go overseas. Those global cultural skills that you'll gain, cultural awareness. I think it's a great experience if you can do it. It's not right for everybody, the same as university isn't right for everybody, but certainly I would encourage students to consider it. Consider your options, be safe, use it productively, you know, plan out something, enjoy it. It can be a really nice thing to be able to talk about, and it can really be something that differentiates you from everybody else. If you're interviewing 10 business students and one of them has done a gap year, and you know, as in my graduate recruitment days, I know that I would have looked at the CV and said, tell me about your gap year, tell me about what you did, how did you organise it, what went wrong? Oh, well, you know, I booked this hostel and it wasn't great, and I had to, this train didn't turn up. I can give you lots of it, you know, it was years and years ago, but I can give you lots of ways I was resilient on my gap year. So I think it's a really nice thing to be able to do. So it's certainly not a wasted year if it is something you want to do.
That's really helpful, and Faye's just put some information in the chat about that, and Alicia said thank you for that. And I think actually students find different ways to achieve the same ends, and actually as you say, everything isn't right for, you know, it's finding your own route through this. And I think, you know, as a parent as well, it's hard to advise students, and the risk element of perhaps taking a different tack. But actually, as you say, usually you can get back on course even if you try something and it doesn't go well. It's taking those risks sometimes, as long as they're calculated risks and safe.
Exactly. And also I was talking to a friend the other day about her son, and her son doesn't want to do a placement, and I'm very pro placements when it comes to university, as you can probably tell.
I am.
But I said, actually, I know her son very well, and he's got a part-time job at Morrison's supermarket, and he's done that since he was an A-level student. He's carried that on at university. He you know, plays judo, or doesn't play judo, he does judo at quite a high standard. So from those experiences, he's already got a lot of those transferable skills, so he's able to compete. You know, a placement year, again, it's a fantastic thing, and in sometimes in Aston particularly, and other universities will be the same. So do check it out, because the fees change, the support changes, and whether it's optional or compulsory. So do make sure that you know the course that you're applying for and what you're applying for. But again, you can use those skills, like you say, everybody can get those different skills in different ways. And if you're somebody that is already working, if you're somebody that already does lots of volunteering, if you're somebody that, you know, has lots of positions of responsibility, then you're probably gaining those skills already anyway. And it's just a question of knowing them and thinking about how you can articulate them.
Certainly, and it's recognising those in a way that is then accessible to an employer or whatever, and applies to a role. And there's a lot of information on our college website that we have, and I'd encourage students and parents to go to that and have a look at some of the links that we've put there, because we do have a skills builder, and so do a lot of other sites as well. So we do actually provide some tools there that students and parents can use to have a look at starting to identify some of those skills. Claire, you've given us the most excellent, I think, talk that we've had on this careers research. It's been very, very useful, and I would encourage students and parents to start that work now, as you said, to start beginning to think about careers, because actually it's a lot more fun and a lot more exciting, I think, to start thinking of it now than when you're actually really put up against a deadline, where it becomes really actually important that you know that can be quite pressurized at that point. So I'd encourage all students and parents to get involved in our employers event that we've got coming up on the evening of the 16th of March. We've got around about 40 employers looking at apprenticeships and general employment. They will be able to talk about the graduate market as well as the undergraduate market. So please do come along to those events and some of our other further online talks. Parents, do get in touch via the careers@keds.ac.uk, and students, you can use that same email address to book a one-to-one appointment with Faye or myself, or book onto any of the pathways as well. Claire, thank you so much for this evening. We haven't got any further questions directly, but we can continue to send those to you if they come through to us. And we'd just very much like to say thank you for this evening. We will be circulating the recording, and certainly we will continue our events as Faye's been putting those in the chat. Claire, thank you very much indeed. I hope students and parents, you've enjoyed that, and we look forward to seeing you in our next speaker series.